Hello everyone, I'm Great Author, a fantasy writer that loves putting things on tables and charts, and this is The Science of Fantasy. In this episode, we are going to talk about the 9 most important laws of magic system building. The first 5 are my personal rules and are heavily based on the previous videos of this series, which I recommend you to check out. I'll leave the link in the description. The next 3 rules are the famous Sanderson laws, which are more meta. And the last one is the most important of them, so important it is often called Sanderson's zero law. My rules are regarding the connection between source or channel on one hand and effect on the other hand. The first one is the law of balance, which states that the greater the source or channel, the greater the effect. What this means is that in order to create more powerful magic, you have to find rarer or more powerful components. Examples of these rules are everywhere in literature, movies, and even religions. After all, what is rarer than a god? In the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, the Elder Wand is one of a kind, thus rarer, and can also create more powerful spells than a normal wand. A particular case of this rule is not as universal is the law of equivalent exchange. While the broader rule states that the rarity of source and channel is directly proportional with the power of the effect, in this case it also states that it's equal. This version was popularized by the manga and anime series Full Metal Alchemist. The second one is the laws of association, which states that there must be an association between the source or channel and the effect. This is exactly what I was talking about in the first video of this series when I said that the magic system must be logical. Two of his variants are the law of similarity and the law of contagion, commonly known as the law of magical thinking. They are featured heavily in the Hollywoodian voodoo magic but are also used in psychological research. The law of similarity is based on the idea that the more similar are the source or channel and the effect, the greater is the effect. In voodoo, that concept is represented by channels such as dolls shaped like the target of the spell. The law of contagion is all about contact or being part of something. The greater the contact between source or channel and the target, the greater the effect. In voodoo, that is using the hair of the victim or an object they touched. Another example comes from the 5th edition of the Dungeons and Dragons tabletop role-playing game. In this game, you get bonuses to the scrying and teleportation spells if you have a body part of the target and respectively an object from the place you want to teleport in. The third and the fourth laws are concerned with relations between different magic systems. They also have an equation variant based on the assumption from the series' first video that a magic system can be written as an equation where S stands for source, C for channel, and E for effect. The third law is the law of investiture. It states that the difference between the effects of two magic systems that use different sources or channels must be greater than the difference between the effect of two systems that use the same source of channel. As an equation, this rule is important to ensure that there is some sort of consistency between magic systems, but also to make it easier to manage hierarchical or fudge-based magic systems, as this can be essentially deconstructed in smaller magic systems with the same source and maybe the same primary channel. I leave you as homework to find examples of such set of systems or even systems that break this law and are still great. Write your examples in the comments. The fourth law is the law of combinations and is the following. If a source or channel corresponds to an effect and another source or channel corresponds to another effect, by combining the two sources or two channels, the corresponding effect is different than any of the other two effects or the two effects combined. As an equation, this is a really long rule, but in practice it's easy to use. Let's take an imaginary situation. You have a magic system that is sourced from power crystals and channeled through the user to create energy blasts. You also have a magic system that is also channeled through the user, but the source is a health crystal that creates a healing hand effect. What you get if you use the two sources at the same time? Well, it is a counterintuitive to heal and create blasts at the same time, so maybe there is another effect. And here you can let your imagination run wild. A healing blast, energy task, life transfers, drain effect. Who knows? The fifth law is a dual law and it talks about the relation between magic and the world with two variants that exclude each other and each system has to choose one of them. We have first the law of evolution. What it says is that the world is in constant evolution, so any change made by magic remains made, and another magical effect that appears to unmade it is essentially just making another change. Or, in other words, all magic is irreversible. This rule is named after biological evolution, in which once a species evolves with body parts accustomed for a specific action, it must evolve then in a different way to revert to making the previous action. This is why fish swim differently than dolphins, for example, and the same analogy can be made with a chain of transmutations. If you transform a pigeon into a rock and then into another pigeon, it's not going to be the same pigeon. This is not true in the alternative fifth rule, the law of reversal, which you can use instead of the law of evolution if for some reason you want it to be the same pigeon. That rule states that all magic is reversible, but then you have to decide on some edge cases such as reviving those killed by magical effects. It's time to move on onto Sanderson's three laws of magic. These laws were created by Brandon Sanderson, the acclaimed author of famous series like Mistborn and the Stormlight Archive, after he realized that plenty of people don't make hard magic systems like him, so he tried to come with something universal that can help writers do any kind of magic system they want. Unlike my rules, which actually can be subverted in clever ways, I recommend you to try to not break this. Sanderson's first law states that an author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands the magic. I like to call it the no Deus Ex Machina rule. For those of you who don't know, the term Deus Ex Machina comes from the ancient Greek plays, where an actor representing a god comes from the sky with the help of a machine to solve our problems. In a fantasy context, this is when some major problem is resolved by an unknown magic and the readers feel cheated by this anticlimactic ending. Sanderson's second law is that limitations are more important than powers, or in other words, it doesn't matter that much what you can do, but what you can't do. The example he uses is that of Superman, but one closer to fantasy but equally famous is that of Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling created a very open ended system for her novels with plenty of different possible effects. However, there are also many limitations, such as the need to know the incantation of a spell before you cast it, impossible effects such as food conjuration or creating true loves, and spatial and temporal constraints, as the spell has to travel in time towards its target and can be stopped by cover. Sanderson's third law is expand what you already have before adding something new. This rule is extremely important because it encourages a writer or world builder to add depth to what they already created. Using my template, it effectively tells you to wonder in what I have to change the sorcerer channel to obtain the effect I want. The best example is Sanderson's series Mistborn. In Mistborn Era 2, one of the added powers is that of time dilation. Instead of building a new magic system for that, he took the allomancy magic system he already had and added a new ally as a possible catalyst, Bendalloy. What I love about these three laws is that they can also be applied to other aspects of a novel. I hope to make one day, maybe, a video on that, but now it's time to go on to the last law, which is also useful for more than magic system, and this mysterious, very important law is the rule of cool. What this rule says is that the more awesome something is, the less logical it needs to be. No one wants a perfectly logical magic system that is boring. As the most important law, it can be used to break any of the other rules. What is important to keep in mind is that something that is awesome for the writer is not necessarily awesome for the readers. With these episodes and our A Fury of Magic System series, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and leave a comment below. Also, if you want to be notified when I post new videos about world building and writing fantasy, subscribe to my channel. Until then, happy writing, happy world building. See you soon.